Hi there everyone, welcome back to Dandelion Delphi. Today we're going to look at the Supplementary paper 2018, question 2.2. So we're going to implement our object class that we created in the previous lesson. Make sure that you first do 2.1. This is our OOP question, so we need 2.1 before we can do 2.2. Just a reminder that when you are done with your object class is that you save and run it to sort out any syntax errors. Now we're moving on to the main form and we are provided with a text file. The first line contains the name of the star, then the magnitude, the distance, and then the constellation, and then an empty line. And so it will continue. So in this first question, 2.2.1, we are going to instantiate the object. The user is going to select the star from a combo box, and then we are going to store that. That is what extract means. And then we're going to use a loop to search through this text file to find the star. Press pause and try it yourself. You will see now that the loop needs to stop when you found the star, so that is important. If we find the star, we're going to instantiate it, and then we're going to test whether it is a navigational star or not. And we're going to use the array navigation stars. And then we're going to enable the panel P&L buttons. And then important is outside of your loop, if you have not found the star, then you are going to display a message and disable this panel. So the top part here is just getting input from the user from the combo box of the star they selected. And then we're using an if statement to test if the file exists. Very important is this begin and end if you are going to use an exit in here. And in order to make my loop stop, once I find the star, I'm going to use a Boolean value. So I'm setting the Boolean value to false, and I'm also using it in my while loop to continue to loop while be found is false. And then our normal assign file and reset file and while not end of the text file. So now inside of my while loop, I'm reading each line from my text file. And I'm using my if statement first to find the name of the star, but also to avoid reading that empty line between the different stars. So I'm using uppercase on both sides so that my program is not case sensitive. This would be the input from the user. And here I'm testing if the line that I'm reading is the name of that star. If it is, then I continue with the part between the begin and end of my if statement. So here I first set be found to true, and that will make my loop stop the next time it executes this line at the top. Remember also that read line is not data type sensitive when you're reading values from a text file into a variable. You can now read the value 1.25 directly into a real variable. You don't have to store it as a string first and then use your string to float to convert it. Same then, I need to read the distance and then the constellation there with my different data types. Just a reminder on how to remember how to instantiate your object. Go to where the object was declared, highlight that line, copy it, go to where you want to instantiate it. It will always be after the arguments that you're going to use received values. We paste it there, we add an equal sign to form an assignment statement, and then you add .create, and in the brackets you then send it the argument. Just a reminder to go and look at your constructor and how you created it, because our arguments that we're going to send this constructor must match these parameters in NOD, number, order, and data type. Now in this example, you will have to have the same number of parameters as you see on the screen at the moment, because that was the requirement for the question. The data type also had to be 2 strings, 1 real and 1 integer, because we got the data types here from our attributes. However, your order could be different, but then you just have to find or use the same order where you instantiate the object. So here I am instantiating my object, and I am matching the arguments with the parameters of the constructor create in number 1, 2, 3, 4, order, I centered the name of the star, then the constellation, magnitude, and then distance. And then the D of nod is for data type, so 2 strings, 1 real, and then 1 integer. And then we were asked in the paper to enable the panel buttons, but it was actually just not visible. So a little mistake in the paper. We just had to set the visible property to true. Now we were asked to go and look for this star name in the array called array navigation stars. And if it was a navigational star, then we had to set the navigational status to true. If it wasn't, we had to set it to false. I used a while loop, but you could have used a for loop as well. I'm using K to loop through my array, and this first condition here just ensures that I don't find the star in the array, that my loop will stop and I won't fall into an infinite loop. The array was declared with values from 1 to 58. And then B navigational status I am setting to false, and if I find it, I change the navigational status to true, and that will make my loop stop. So at the end of my while loop, B navigation will have the value of the status of the star. In my if statement here, I'm just searching through this array, but I am using the given function, the accessor method called getName. Make sure that you use the given methods as well. And this returns the name of the star for me. And since I've already instantiated the object, it would be possible for me to use getName. Just remember that you're now going to use the object name, and you are done with T star there at the top once you have instantiated the object. So once I find the star, I just set B navigation to true. And at the end here, what you need to do is you need to call the set navigational status procedure. Remember, procedure stands on its own. And then we send it the B navigation flag that I have created. So if the star was found in the array, then this navigation will be set to true, else it will still be false and navigation will be set to false. Very important, outside of your while loop, remember to close your file. And very important, outside of your loop, I'm just testing if B found is still false. That means I haven't found the name of the star in the text file. I'm displaying a message, and I have done as they have asked, and I have disabled the button, but I think they really wanted us to set the visible property to false. So now is your time to practice. This is button 2.2.2. Press pause and try it yourself. So we are required to display the to string as well as load an image that matches the name of the constellation, and note the .jpg file extension. Here is an example of output. Note that the output is at the top of the rich edit, so make sure that you add your .clear. And here I have my rich edit.clear, and in my output I'm displaying my to string. Remember, to string is a function, so it needs to form part of another statement, and to strings are typically called in rich edits, show messages, panels, labels, or even stored as a string in here. And then we had to load the picture of the constellation, and you wrote the accessor method, getConstellation, so make use of that. But also remember to add your file extension to the end. So you can build a name for a file that needs to be used when you are using your image.picture.load from file. This here in the brackets just needs to be string, and always remember to add the dot and the file extension. Again, your time to practice, press pause and try the button visibility. We were asked here to display the name of the star as well as the visibility, and remember you wrote a function that returns the visibility of each star. When I have a look at the output, I can also see that they've used a tab stop here, so I'm going to use #9. I'm going to set up my tab stops. I'm going to have a clear because it's at the top of the rich edit. Very important is that you test your output for all 3 of these stars, because each one is displaying a different message from the visibility function. So here's my clear. I have only one #9, so that's why my tab count is 1. And then I'm setting that tab number 0, that's my first tab, to 45, maybe 50 would work as well. And then I'm displaying the labeling. Important to always include your labeling. There are often marks allocated for the labeling. And my #9 to make my tab space. Here I am using that given function getName, which was our accessor method that was provided. And then I'm using my function determineVisibility in here, which returned a string. So I can just use my function in here and add it to my string to display in the rich edit. And that was it. Thank you guys for watching Dandelion Delphi tutorials. If you would like more information about OOP, please go to my book 3. Hope to see you soon.